Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jordan and thank you so much for clicking on one of my bookish videos. Today I'm going to be filming my April wrap up, all the books I read in April, and giving you a sneak peek at my May TBR. So if you want to see all the books I read in April and my May TBR, then keep on watching. Okay, so starting off with stats of what I read in April, I read a total of 14 books in April. 3 were audiobooks. I read 7 physical books and 4 Kindle ebooks. And all in all, it was such a good reading month. I feel like I've been so lucky this year. I've been able to read so many amazing books. The months just keep getting better. The books keep getting better. I keep finding new favorites, honestly, of all time. And I've just been having the best time. So I'm going to go through each book. We will run it through. One of the top books of April that I read was Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I actually read this book twice in April. I listened to the audiobook first and then I reread it physically once the book released at the end of April, and I loved it both times around. I actually just filmed a reading vlog with all of my thoughts, but I know that this is a book that has generated a lot of mixed reviews. I still really loved it. It felt like an Emily Henry book. Half of the book is really romance heavy between Alice and Hayden, who I loved their relationship. They both are writers and they're competing to write the book of Margaret Ives, who is this very famous, scandalous woman who was a part of the Ives family, a very rich and powerful family in a bunch of different industries. So the other half of the book, you're learning about Margaret Ives and her family and their history and their drama. And honestly, I liked both parts. The romance in this book was so much fun. I really loved the little moments of Alice and Hayden showing each other that they cared about each other and loved each other. And I thought the writing was terrific. So I gave this 5 stars. Next, I read The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings, and this was gifted to me by Bloom Books. So thank you very much to them. This is a standalone contemporary romance, another almost family drama book. I really enjoyed it. I am a huge fan of the Magnolia Park series, so I'm always looking to read whatever Jessa writes next. I really enjoyed this one. I think that Georgia's character, who's the female main character, was just such a strong, quirky female that I really could relate to. Georgia is really estranged from her family after she went through a traumatic thing in her youth, and they essentially kicked her out and sent her away. And she is forced to come back to her family after her dad dies, seeing everybody for the first time in years, and they still don't understand what actually happened to her that caused this big fallout when she was younger. The family dynamics in this book were super interesting. I really enjoyed seeing Georgia's dynamics with different characters and her different siblings. Some of the characters I absolutely hated and thought were awful people. I thought the writing in this, as usual, was super beautiful, and I really enjoyed the dialogue about grief and death, which Jessa does so well, but also religion and modern religion in our lives. And I gave this a 4.5 stars. Okay, next we have the wonderful Left of Forever by Tara DeWitt. This was gifted to me by St. Martin's Press, so thank you very much to them. I loved this book. So I have read Tara's other books before. This so far is my absolute favorite. The emotional depth of the romance between Ren and Alice was just so well done. I was absolutely sucked in. This is a second chance romance that follows Ren and Ellis, who have been divorced for 5 years after being childhood sweethearts. And in this book, they are getting ready to drop their son off at college, and they decide to go on a road trip where during that road trip, they decide to figure out whether or not they should try their relationship out again and rekindle things. The writing was so beautiful. I cried multiple times. I just felt like my heartstrings were being tugged constantly. The spice scenes were wonderful, and I had the best time reading this. So this comes out May 20th, and I highly recommend it. I think I gave this 4.5 stars, but honestly, this could be a 5 stars for me. Next, we have a young adult romance romance, and that is Audre and Bash Are Just Friends by Tia Williams. This was gifted to me by Little Brown Young Readers. I absolutely love this. I love Tia Williams' writing. This was her young adult romance debut, and I think she did it so well. I thought that the two main characters, Audre and Bash, in this book were so authentically teenagers in like the best way. They made me laugh so much. I really related to Audrey, who's struggling with like her perfectionism and just how ambitious she is in high school, wanting to be the best and pushing herself to succeed in all these different ways, while also struggling with being a teenager, falling in love for the first time, her family issues and family dynamics. The banter in this book was so good. It was so funny. I really liked how Audrey and Bash interacted, and I give this a 4.5 stars. So this comes out, I believe, May 6th, so definitely check it out. Okay, and then we have Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. This is the final book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, which is one of my favorite small town romance slash, I guess, kinda cowboy romance-ish series. I was super excited for this one because we saw a lot of Dusty and Cam's relationship in the background of the other books, and this did not disappoint. Dusty and Cam were childhood sweethearts. This is another second chance romance. They broke up once they graduated from high school after being together for quite a few years and being like best friends in high school. When Dusty comes back to their town as a grown-up, they are together for the first time in a very long time, and they start to just fall back into their old ways, and I absolutely loved it. I gave this a 4.5 stars. Okay, next, I do not have a physical copy of it yet, but I loved it so much I definitely am planning to pick up a physical copy soon, and that is The Bright Years by, I think, Sarah Danoff. This was this author's debut novel, and I was so impressed with her writing and just storytelling. This follows several generations of this family as they are dealing with alcoholism that runs through their family. The way that alcoholism was depicted and how it impacted not only the significant others but the parents and the children, and how it was passed on through generation and generation, was so well done. The story was told from 3 different characters' point of views from these different generations, which I thought was really interesting. It was so beautiful. Just the writing and themes of grief and loss, healing, love, the power of family and friends to lift us up. I thought it was one of the best literary fiction books of the year, and I gave it 5 stars. Another book that I read, but I do not have a physical copy yet, was The Thrashers by Julie Soto. I was able to read a ebook early copy that was gifted to me by Wednesday Books, and I will be picking up a physical copy of this book because I loved it. So The Thrashers is like a young adult thriller mystery with a bit of paranormal sense to it. It is young adult set in a high school following this group of really popular friends that are mixed up in this murder of one of their old friends. Throughout the book, you're trying to figure out who was involved with the killing of this girl. You're learning a lot about the friend dynamics from the main character's point of view, who feels kind of left out even though she is in this group called the Thrashers. I literally binged it, I think, in like a day or two. I could not put it down. It really reminded me of One of Us is Lying in the sense of like a young adult teenage friend group who gets mixed up in this murder or killing. I just absolutely loved it. I think if you're in the market for young adult mystery thriller, I would definitely recommend checking out this one when it comes out on May 6th. And I gave this, I think, a 4.5 stars. Okay, so next I read The Inadequate Heir by Danielle Jensen. This was gifted to me by DoubleDay Books, so thank you to them. This is the 3rd book in the Bridge Kingdom series, and this book and these next 2 books follows Zara and Karis. Zara is the heir of an empire that is like technically in an alliance with Karis's kingdom, but also they're kind of enemies and fighting on different different sides of this war. So basically they fall in love before they even know who each other is and their role in these different kingdoms. Then they kind of betray each other, and Zara ends up as a prisoner in Karis's kingdom. As usual, the political dynamics in this book was super interesting and really, I feel like, built on the first two books, which I really enjoyed, and I gave this a 4.5 stars. Next, I read Aftertaste by Daria Lavelle, and this was gifted to me by Simon Books, so thank you very much to them. This book intrigued me so much when I found out about it. It's basically like this culinary experience that is meshed with bringing back ghosts. Let me tell you, this was one of the most unique books that I've ever read. I still am not really sure how to describe the genre. So basically the premise of this book is this character will just be like walking and he'll get a whiff of this like very distinct memory of this meal. When he makes that meal perfectly from whatever he smells, he's able to bring back the ghost of that person. So the smell of a specific meal is associated with a ghost. He opens this restaurant that allows him to make the meal and reunite this grieving person with their ghost to try and get the ghost to move on to the afterlife. I just was so fascinated and impressed by this book. I genuinely think it's going to be like one of the top books of the year. It is such a unique read, and I thought it was so moving and so healing with the topics of grief and loss, and I gave this 5 stars. Next, another early book that I read was The Original Daughter by Jemiah Way. This was gifted to me by DoubleDay's book, so thank you to them. This was such a beautiful book. It's another like contemporary fiction, literary fiction novel. This is a debut novel, which again, I was so impressed by. This basically follows these two sisters. One actually was born a part of this family with her mother and her father. The other is essentially adopted, and they basically become like two peas in a pod. And this story is set in the present, and the one daughter is telling her childhood growing up with her adopted sister, and basically the tension and the fallout that they had as their mother's life is ending and the sisters haven't spoken in years. It just was such a beautiful book. I really liked the dynamic of the family and the sisters. I give this 4.5 stars. Okay, we have 2 more books left. So next, I read This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. This is the second book in, I think, the Skyland series. I absolutely love this book. This was about Soledad and Judah. Soledad basically is in this relationship that at the beginning of this book falls apart. It's already been on the edge of falling apart for quite a few years. She doesn't really get any of her needs from her husband. He is involved in this embezzlement incident that essentially tears her life and her family's life apart, and she has to figure out how to start from the ground up, figure out a way to make money and provide for her daughters without this man in the picture. And she really goes on this like self-healing journey and self-love journey throughout the book. But Judah is involved in this embezzlement incident and uncovering what Soledad's husband did. The two of them have chemistry right from the start. Judah is yearning after Soledad the entire book. I really just loved how special their relationship was, and I gave this 4.5 stars, so I'm super excited to read the final book in the series. Okay, and the final book that I read in April was my reread of The Winners by Frederick Bachman. I actually did listen to this book on audio mainly. I've been mainly rereading this series, listening to the audiobooks because I love the narrators, and hearing Frederick Bachman's writing being spoken and said is just like a top tier experience. This book destroyed me, somehow even more the second time. The first time that I read this book, I literally cried so hard I burst a blood vessel in my eye, and the second time I read this book, I cried so hard at the end that I like literally felt sick in the best way, just from how much I love these characters. This book is Benji Ovich's book, and Benji Ovich is one of my favorite characters of all time. His story story is so heartbreaking, but also so beautiful in the way that he impacted so many people from his family and his friends. What I really loved about this book is you get to expand and see more of the background characters like Amit, Bobo, Alicia. You get to see kind of their interactions with other characters and they get more developed. It's a big book, honestly, but I just love being in Beartown. I love being with these characters, and the way that the story wraps up is so heartbreaking, like probably one of the saddest things I've ever read, but it's just a story of love and community, and I also kind of love how it wrapped up. So I give this is like infinity stars for me. This is probably my favorite series and favorite books of all time. Hey, so now I'm going to talk about the books on my May TBR. A lot of these are new releases. Try to read a month ahead in terms of like any early copies I have, so I'm reading a lot of June new releases, but also May is so packed in terms of new releases and books I cannot wait to get my hands on. So I'm gonna quickly talk through a bunch of these. So first, I have One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune, which releases May 6th. And at the time of filming this video, I actually already finished listening to my early copy. I think this is the fastest I ever have listened to an audiobook. I'm not going to give all my thoughts because I'm actually filming that for a different reading vlog that you should see soon, but just know I think this is my top romance book of the year. I'm going to be rereading My Friends by Frederick Bachman, which also comes out on May 6th. I'm in the middle of rereading it now, and this is one of my favorite books of the year. I got a physical ARC from Atria Books, so thank you very much to them for the free book, and I really wanted to physically read and annotate, so I'm going to be doing that. And then I'm planning to read All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. Sabaa is one of my favorite authors. I've read her Ember and the Ashes series and Air and absolutely loved her young adult fantasy writing, and I've heard really great things about All My Rage, so I've been wanting to read this one for a while and I'm super excited. Also, I'm going to be reading Can't Get Enough by Kennedy Ryan, which is the third book in the Skyland series. I was so lucky to get sent an ebook ARC, so I'm super excited for Hendrix's book in the series, and that also comes out I think May 15th. I also am currently listening to The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I was able to get an early audiobook copy from LibroFM and Hachette Audio, so thank you so much to them. Rachel is the author of One Dark Widow, that duet, which I really enjoyed, and The Night and the Moth is her new fantasy romantasy duology. I believe this comes out on May 20th, and I'm super interested to see what I think. I've heard really good things so far from early reviewers. Okay, and then I'm planning to read Play Along and Rewind It Back by Liz Tom Ford. I have been reading the Windy City series before the release of Rewind It Back, which I think comes out May 20th. I only have Play Along left before Rewind It Back, so I'm super excited. I know that Play Along is a lot of people's like favorite book in the Windy City series, and honestly I'm really excited for Rewind It Back because it's Rio's book. And then I'm planning to read The Endless War by Danielle Jensen to continue my reading of the Bridge Kingdom series. This was gifted to me by Del Rey, so thank you very much to them. This is the second book in Karis and Zara's story. The cliffhanger of The Inadequate Heir was crazy, so I'm very curious to see what they get up to in this one. And then another arc that I'm planning to read is Love is a War Song by Danica Nava. This is the author of The Truth According to Ember. I'm super excited for this one. I think it's like a pop star and a cowboy, which cowboy like pop star romances I feel like are a very popular thing right now, and I think this releases in July. Okay, and then I am planning to read The Ministry of Time by Callian Bradley. I've been wanting to read this book for so long. I feel like it was a lot of people's favorite book from 2024. I've had this on my physical TBR. I picked it up at the end of last year, so it's finally time to read it. I've heard really great things. I know it's like a mix of genres. I think a bit of like sci-fi, but also like literary fiction. I've heard that the writing is really beautiful in this, this, so I'm excited to read it. I am going to be rereading Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V. Schwab. This was gifted to me by Tor Books, so thank you so much to them. This, so far, is my favorite book of 2025. I just need to reread this. I need to physically annotate before the book releases in June, so that is what I'm planning to do. I think I'm going to be filming this for a reading vlog, hopefully coming at the end of May or the beginning of June, so you can get all of my thoughts reading this wonderful book. But this is 3 different lesbian vampires who are incredibly toxic. They are very horrible to each other and other people, and it's just so much fun, and the morals and different themes of like humanity was just written so beautifully. I think this is V. Schwab's best work, and I cannot wait for everyone to read it. And then finally, I am going to be reading the entire month of May, Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. I have been putting this book off. I've been reading the entire Stormlight Archive series for the past few months, literally I think since October. This book is a brick. Like, this could literally kill someone. I think it's like 1,300 pages. It's gonna take me forever to get through, and that is just not my favorite feeling in the world. However, I know that I'm going to love this. I know that some of my favorite characters, and this is one of my favorite epic fantasy series, and this is the conclusion of the first arc of the Stormlight Archive series. So I just want to read it while the characters are fresh in my mind, because this is the only book that we're going to be getting in this series for I think a while, at least quite a few years. This was gifted to me by the besties at Tor Books, so thank you very much to them. This is going to be a feat, and it's going to feel so good when I can get through this by the end of May, hopefully. So I am excited to read it and just take my time with it. Okay, so that is the end of this little April wrap up and May TBR video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed seeing all of the books that I read in April. It was such a great reading month. My May TBR is stacked. I'm so excited. I'm going to be filming reading vlogs for some of these and talking about all of my favorites. I already know I'm going to find new favorites of the year. I feel so lucky to have read so many good books in these past few months. So if you enjoyed this little bookish video from me, I would love it if you subscribe and stick around, and definitely please let me know your most anticipated read in May. I would love to know, and I'll see you in my next bookish video. Bye!